pretty little machine is a fabric cutting machine that is designed to work with fabric cutting dies. It doesn't require any electricity or any software. It's powered by a little bit of elbow grease turning this hand crank. The machine is able to close up and has its own built-in handle to take to class. To open it, you simply pull it apart. And it also comes with a 3-part platform, base platform, this beautiful steel plate, and the clear top cover plate for positioning your materials, and then this with your fabrics inserts into the machine and then you roll it through. The machine also comes with an illustrated instruction manual, and inside of the instruction manual are helpful instructions on how to set one of the most wonderful features of this machine, which is the adjustable tension or adjustable pressure dial, which basically sets the wheels on the machine closer or further apart so that you can cut anything from really sheer material to really thick fabrics. The machine itself was designed for use with a brand new set of dies called Fab Dies. These dies are not fixed to any board. They can't hurt you if you put your hands on them. So even young children can come into the sewing room and help you cut fabrics now. This would be one set of dies, and you can see how many come in just one single set, so that you can cut all sizes of circles and do it all at one time, or you can cut lots of individual sizes and then bring them together. There's even a wide variety of different English paper piecing dies, with one piece for the paper and the other die is for the fabric. So you can create all of the wonderful English paper piecing quilts that you'd ever imagine, and do so without having to use your rotary cutter. Here we have a beautiful applique design, a butterfly, and I'm going to go ahead and show you one of the most fabulous things about using the crossover machine with the Fab Dies, and that is a term called fussy cutting. So you can actually position your dies and see through the opening of the die, rather than guessing that you have it positioned properly in the traditional method of cutting, where they have you lay your fabric on top of a die that's fixed on a board. So the flexibility of being able to see through them and also to be able to just position them on top of the material allows you to cut lots of different dies with lots of different colors of fabrics all at one time. So here we have the base plate, the metal plate, and what I have here is already fused with your fusible webbing with a paper backing, is already on the back side of the material. So I don't have to do that in 2 steps. And then you just go ahead and insert it into the machine. Set the tension according to the instruction manual. And what I'm using now is a 6 tension. Just go ahead and roll it through and you'll hear a crunching sound. And notice that I am actually keeping my hand on the handle and also keeping my hand on the clear plate. And you'll hear it crunch. Kind of scary, but there's nothing scary about it. It's wonderful. Now my arms are really short, so I'm going to bring the plate back by cranking backwards, but you could just pick the plate up after it went through one pass. And then what I like to do is flip it over and then slide the metal plate off so that you can see and confirm that you cut everything before you take the fabric off. You just peel back. And because I had that fabric folded over, that was 2 layers of paper and 2 layers of fabric. You could have done more than that, because it can cut up to 6 layers of fabric. So now I'm removing the paper release liner. And this will allow me to build a cute little butterfly design that you see here on this box. Here's another die set that I cut all at once. I cut 2 sets of flowers with one pass through the machine. You end up with 2 sets, and they're also already backed with fusible webbing and ready to be put onto any garment or possibly a placemat, anything that you might want to have a beautiful flower on. One of my favorite things that I've done with this wonderful machine so far is the Dresden Plate. It is so neat to be able to actually stack your fabrics in the order in which you're going to sew them and cut them in that order, saving you time on going back after you've cut them all out and organizing them. Able to cut 6 petals at one time. Absolute time saver, and it's so nice to know that those pieces are perfectly mathematically the right shape so that when you're finished everything lays flat and you can apply this to your quilt or create a nice pillow like you see here. This was a lot of fun, and my little dog Tinkerbell loves to lay right here on this. It's a nice little dog bed. And another nice thing about these is that you don't just get one size. So in this pattern or in this die set you get both sizes of Dresden Plate plus the circles to fill in the middle of the actual Dresden Plate. In the square set you get all of those sizes of squares, not just 4 or 5 of them, but the entire set of squares. It is very impressive, so you don't have to sit there and buy multiple sets to know that you're getting every size of square that you would need for your project. Just going to bring them out so you can see just how many there are here. And there are 12 different sizes of squares in one set. So you can cut out as many sizes as you want, as long as they fit on the metal plate. And then you can also toss in a circle for good measure, whatever combination you need. Just remember to make sure that the metal plate is always on the white platform, and then the plate holds them in place so that you can even move it around and it won't fall off. One of the more challenging quilt squares to create is the Drunkards Path. And with this die, you're going to absolutely love not having to worry about the 2 pieces fitting together, so that you can end up with an absolutely perfect Drunkards Path pattern, so that your quilt squares are square when you're finished instead of having odd shapes. Isn't it nice to see that you can sew them and afterward your seam allowance lays completely flat without any clipping needed? One of the features I really love about this machine is that you can also press your fabric. Here I have a stack of 10 of my half square or quarter square triangle pattern, and you can see that even though I've pressed it, the fabric is not quite laying flat. I want it to be really flat, because when you go to quilt this and you come up in the center, you want to make sure it's as flat as possible to eliminate any risk of actually breaking a needle on the thickness. Have your fabrics facing upward after you sew your seam allowances, and then you lay the plate, clear plate on top. You won't need the clear plate, and there's no, you don't need the metal plate for pressing, and you're going to have to adjust your tension for this based on as it goes through the machine, because I have 10 layers here, so it's a lot thicker than any of the dies. So I'm going to go minus and make those rollers go up higher, and then as I crank it through, it's actually pressing not just 1 but 10 of my quilt blocks, so I don't have to go out and I don't have to use my iron and worry about burning my fingers. And you can see now how perfectly flat that lays, and every one of them is flat. This is a very exciting, much quicker method. See how beautifully they lay flat and how perfectly I was able to stitch that, because of the fact that everything was squared off using the dies rather than me using a rotary cutter. Now, one of the most exciting things about the Fab Dies is the fact that these dies are absolutely perfect for fussy cutting. They're windows that you can look through so that you know that you're positioning the shape or the die over the fabric exactly how you want it to be, so that when you cut out your piece, it's going to be exactly the same as what you see within that window. And what I did was cut all of these out at the same time, multiple layers at once, using the smaller heart and then the big heart for the other two pieces. You can go up to 6 layers, remember, at one time, but lining up your pieces accurately is important. This is so much easier than having a die sitting on a board and trying to fussy cut with the fabric laying on top. However could you figure out exactly how to line that up? And if you're wondering about what types of materials you can use for this, this is an upholstery material, very thick. I did just cut one heart at a time, but look at how nice and clean those cut, even though this fabric normally frays. And now you can see just how thin the fabric can be. This is like a bridal fabric. Cutting blue jeans and leathers and suede and vinyl and plastic and even paper will not dull the blades on these dies. They can be used over and over and over again. I cut over 200 squares with my square set. And now what does happen from multiple uses is the metal plate will eventually not look so pretty. This is normal for it to be scarred. Because the blade is experiencing a tremendous amount of pressure as those rollers push down on it, it actually indents into this steel plate, but the dies are still intact and ready to cut and cut and cut. And as I said, I cut over 200 with one die, and the only thing is that the plate was no longer flat. Every so often I just would flip the plate over for the next, then it starts to bow the other way, and then you flip it over for the next cut. So I recommend rotating about every second or third cut the blade or the steel plate over and over so that it doesn't end up bowing too much. But should it ever really bow, all you do is just take your hand like this and just kind of push down, and you can straighten that puppy out. And isn't it nice to be able to utilize a fabric in more than one way on a quilt with different shapes, and having that particular element, design element in the fabric that you like, having it line up exactly the way you want with every piece, no matter what the shape. Knowing that you can use fusible webbings on the back of your appliques before cutting them out is wonderful time saver, but you can also use Timtex or really, really thick double-sided fusible batting and iron the fabrics on both sides. So that's 2 layers of material and a thick layer of Timtex in between, and that's what you see here is double-sided fusible webbing batting. Actually, just lay it in there. It's hard to believe it's going to cut through all those layers, but watch this. And remember, the only reason I go backward is because I have really short arms. Go. Isn't that amazing? So now you can see why I absolutely love my new crossover machine and the Fab Dies that we have now at creativefeet.com. Be sure to check them out and know that I have plans to come out with many tutorials using them along with the Creative Feet and Octi Hoops. Just you wait and see what we can do with these machines.